being described by the FBI. We are joined now on the phone live by City Council District C, Councilman Freddie King III, who represents the French Quarter. Sir, good morning to you.
Councilman, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you loud and clear. Thank you for being with us this morning. I know you have a lot of moving parts on your end as well, and you have a lot to get to. You know, this is your district. When were you first made aware of this?
When I was asleep, my wife came in and rushed and woke me up and said, "Hey, get up. You know, just heard about the situation that happened in the French Quarter." So got up and phone was buzzing and been on the phone with NOPD, state police, different other elected officials and city leaders ever since then.
What are they telling you, sir, on where things stand?
Well, I just heard you say, you know, FBI said this is an act of terrorism, terror act. I've been hearing that. From my understanding, this individual most likely had an accomplice, and I know there's an ongoing investigation. There's a lot of moving parts. FBI, state police, NOPD are all working in unison to figure out exactly how did this happen. So there's a lot happening in it, and a lot of people are trying to put the pieces together.
You know, as a representative of this district and a member of this city and a proud member of this city, what goes through your mind seeing something of this magnitude play out in downtown?
It's a bit surreal. You know, you see this on TV. You don't really see this happening in our city. We have our issues with violence, but you know, you never think that you would be looking at a act of terrorism in New Orleans. So it's just shocking. But I want to thank NOPD for their swift response. I'm sure their actions saved lives, and also, you know, want to take the time to pray for those who lost their lives and those families, because at the end of the day, we still have individuals who are bringing in the new year without family members.
Definitely is the case, sir. I mean, the tragedy here speaks for itself as we look at the images, as we hear from witnesses who were there on scene, as we hear from local leaders like you who are there on the front lines getting the latest information about what we do know here. There is, unfortunately, though, a question of messaging, all of this happening during a very busy time for us here. As the leader who represents this district, what do you want people to know about the extent of safety? Because the matter of fact here is that there are multiple law enforcement agencies already in the French Quarter to ensure safety, and that there were some 300 NOPD officers on the ground last night.
Well, I think it just shows you that, unfortunately, when someone has their mind on doing evil, they're going to do their best to carry that out. Like you said, they had hundreds of law enforcement agents in the area. You know, the city. Hello?
Yeah, sorry about that, sir. You're probably interrupted by a little audio of an ambulance here from video that we're running.
Yeah, so when someone has their mind on doing something, you know, it's hard to stop them. You never know when or where they're coming from. But I do know that the city, NOPD, and other law enforcement agencies are doing their best to keep us safe. There will be, I'm sure, conversations about what can be done in the future as it relates to Mardi Gras and the Super Bowl to ensure something like this doesn't happen. But, you know, this is something this is the reality we live in 2025. Just gotta always stay vigilant and stay prepared.
You know, what are your next steps today as a councilman? Where are you going, or what are you doing now?
Man, I'm about to head to UMC. Then I'm going to go and meet with. I spoke to Captain Roberts at the 8th District. I'm going to meet with him a little bit later. Other law enforcement leaders to see what happened, what's the next steps on keeping our visitors, our residents, and our business owners safe in an entire city.
And what would be your message to those business owners and residents who call the French Quarter home, who rely on police presence to keep them safe?
You know, just bear with us while we figure this out. I'm doing everything I can from a legislative position to keep everyone safe. I have all the faith in our NOPD officers to keep us safe. This is a unprecedented event in this city. So just bear with us as we figure out what's happening, and you know,
Want to thank you for that.
we're all working together.
Want to thank you for that, sir. Just want to ask you real quick. You sighed there after Mike asked you that question. I want to know, how are you dealing right now with these questions about what happens next, questions about the future of the French Quarter? How are you doing right now? I mean, that sigh might speak to something.
No, it's just never. I don't know, man. You just never expected this to happen in New Orleans, so it's still a bit of a shock that you have this act of terror that injured dozens and killed over 10 people. You're just trying to still figure out how and why this happened. There's so many questions, but so little answers. So just trying to put it all together. Don't read too much to the side, man. Just trying to put this all together and figure out what happened.
Sure thing, sure thing. Just wanted to make sure that we also checked in on you, make sure that you're doing all right. Hearing that, we do thank you for spending time with us this morning.
Because you're right, it's like a surreal experience, Councilman. Appreciate you being with us. I know you're busy today and have a lot going on, but we certainly appreciate your time, putting a little context in this from your legislative and policy standpoint as a city leader here.